September 29, 2025. The Rose Garden at the White House. Two of the most influential men in the world, standing shoulder to shoulder, smiling as cameras flash and the entire world looks on. Those who keep a close watch on prophecies were on high alert after this event. Could this be a fulfillment of biblical prophecy? You're going to be stunned when I reveal 5 key discoveries about this whole thing. Discovery number 1, the announcement. What Trump and Netanyahu just pulled off. Let's break down exactly what went down. On September 29th, Trump unveiled a comprehensive 20-point peace plan for Gaza and the wider Middle East. But this wasn't just another diplomatic proposal thrown into the mix. This was presented as the ultimate solution, a plan to put an end to what Trump himself described as millennia of conflict. Here's a rundown of what they announced. First, an immediate ceasefire and a complete Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Not just a partial withdrawal, but a total and complete withdrawal. Second, the complete and total demilitarization of Gaza. Third, and this is where things get really interesting from a prophetic standpoint, Trump himself will personally chair something called the Board of Peace to oversee the reconstruction of Gaza. Not the UN, not some group of international peacekeepers, but Trump himself. Fourth, massive humanitarian aid and economic development initiatives, with rock-solid guarantees that no Palestinian civilians will be forcibly displaced from their homes. But here's where things get really interesting. Fifth, this plan expands way beyond just Gaza. It builds on the Abraham Accords to bring about normalization of relations between Israel and Turkey, Indonesia, Pakistan, and a number of Arab nations. A complete and total regional transformation. It sounds like everything the world has been waiting for, right? A solution to the most intractable conflict on the face of the earth. Peace in the Middle East. Security for Israel. Hope for the Palestinians. Regional stability across the board. But that's precisely what makes it so potentially dangerous. Discovery number 2, prophecy alert. Because there's a verse in the Bible that should make every believer's blood run cold when they hear world leaders talking about comprehensive peace agreements. 1 Thessalonians 5 verse 3. For when they shall say, peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. Let's break this down for you, because the context of this particular verse is absolutely critical to understanding what we might be witnessing right now. Paul wrote these words to the church in Thessalonica way back around 51 AD. He was addressing their burning questions about the timing of Christ's return and the day of the Lord. Take a look at verses 1 and 2. But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. Then comes the warning, for when they shall say, peace and safety. Notice that Paul doesn't say if they say it, or that some people might say it. He says when they shall say it. This is prophetic certainty we're talking about here. Paul, writing under divine inspiration, is telling us that there will come a time when world leaders will declare peace and safety, and what happens immediately after that? Sudden destruction, as travail upon a woman with child. Anyone who's ever witnessed childbirth knows that labor pains come on suddenly, intensely, and they cannot be stopped once they begin. That's the powerful image Paul paints of what follows declarations of peace and safety. Now listen very carefully to Trump's exact words from September 29th, eternal peace in the Middle East, lasting safety for all peoples, a new era of security and prosperity. This could be one of the great days ever in civilization. Peace and safety, the exact phrase Paul warned us to watch out for. But here's what makes this even more chilling. Take a look at the broader context of 1 Thessalonians 5. Verse 4 says, but ye, brethren, are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. Paul is saying that while the world will be caught completely off guard by these events, believers who are actively watching and discerning should absolutely recognize the signs. We should see it as setup coming. We should understand that these grand declarations of comprehensive peace are actually warnings of impending judgment. But there's another prophecy that's even more specific about end times peace agreements. Daniel 9 verse 27. And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation. And that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. Let me show you why this prophecy is so unbelievably relevant to what Trump and Netanyahu just announced. He shall confirm the covenant with many. Not create a new covenant, but confirm one. Strengthen it, guarantee it, expand it with many. This isn't just a bilateral agreement between two parties involved. Daniel specifically uses the word many, multiple nations, multiple stakeholders. Trump's plan involves Israel, Palestinians, Turkey, Indonesia, Pakistan, Arab nations, European partners, and American guarantees. That's exactly the kind of multilateral agreement Daniel described for 1 week. In biblical prophecy, this week represents 7 years, the final 7 years of human history before Christ's return. Daniel's famous 70th week, the one that was separated from the first 69 weeks by the church age. But here's where it gets truly terrifying. In the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Halfway through this 7-year period, after 3.5 years of peace, the one who confirmed the covenant will break it. He'll stop Jewish religious practices. He'll commit what Jesus himself called the abomination of desolation in Matthew 24, verse 15. Could Trump's peace plan be setting the stage for this very prophetic sequence of events? I'm not saying that Trump is the Antichrist, but I am saying that the pattern Daniel described, a leader confirming a covenant with many nations for 7 years, matches exactly what we just witnessed. And there's one more prophecy we absolutely have to consider. Jesus himself warned about this in Matthew 24, verse 6-8. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. See that you be not troubled. Look at what Jesus says next in verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Jesus directly references Daniel's prophecy about the covenant and its midpoint betrayal. He's clearly connecting the dots between the peace covenant and the final tribulation. Could this deal be the setup and not the actual solution? Could this comprehensive peace plan be exactly what biblical prophecy warned would come just before the Great Tribulation? And here's what should absolutely terrify every discerning believer out there. If this is, in fact, the covenant that Daniel predicted, then we're not just watching history unfold before our very eyes. We're watching the final countdown actually begin. What happens if this supposed peace is actually the prelude to the greatest deception in all of human history? What happens if the very agreement that the world is celebrating becomes the foundation for the Antichrist's rise to power? Because according to prophecy, the covenant that brings peace will also bring the greatest tribulation the world has ever seen. Discovery number 3, how prophecy warns of a deceptive covenant. Here's what most people just don't understand about biblical prophecy. The greatest deceptions in human history don't come announced with horror and destruction. They come cleverly disguised as the greatest breakthroughs imaginable. Satan doesn't just reveal his plans with obvious evil intentions. Let me show you what Scripture teaches about deceptive peace agreements in the last days. Isaiah 28, verse 15. Because ye have said, we have made a covenant with death, and with hell are we at agreement. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehood have we hid ourselves. A covenant with death, an agreement with hell. That's how the prophet Isaiah describes certain peace treaties in the end times. Not because the people making them know that they're evil, but because they're trusting in human solutions instead of divine protection. Notice the mindset. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, it shall not come unto us. They genuinely believe that their diplomatic agreement will protect them from the coming judgment. They think their peace plan will shield them from the prophetic consequences. But look at God's verdict in verse 18, and your covenant with death shall be disannulled, and your agreement with hell shall not stand. When the overflowing scourge shall pass through, then ye shall be trodden down by it. The very thing they thought would save them actually becomes the instrument of their destruction. Now, think about Trump's peace plan for a minute. It's being presented as the ultimate solution to protect Israel from Iranian threats. World leaders are enthusiastically calling it a shield against Middle East chaos. The media is portraying it as protection from escalating warfare. But what if this covenant, regardless of how well-intentioned it might be, becomes exactly what Isaiah warned us about? What if the very agreement designed to bring safety actually sets the stage for unprecedented danger? It's like healing wounds slightly, superficially, temporarily, while deeper spiritual issues remain completely unaddressed. Think about the current situation in the Middle East. Has the fundamental spiritual conflict actually been resolved? Has the deep-seated hatred between Isaac's descendants and Ishmael's descendants truly been healed? Has the world's rebellion against God's covenant with Israel even been addressed? This peace plan merely treats the symptoms while completely ignoring the underlying disease. It offers political solutions to what are fundamentally spiritual problems. It attempts to heal ancient wounds with modern diplomacy. The Antichrist's primary weapon isn't military force. It's spiritual deception, plain and simple. He doesn't conquer through obvious evil. He conquers through convincing lies. What kind of lies, you ask? Peace lies, safety lies, security lies, prosperity lies. The seductive promise that human wisdom can solve problems that only God can truly solve. And here's what should terrify every serious student of prophecy. The most effective lies are the ones that are closest to the truth. The most dangerous deceptions are the ones that seem the most beneficial on the surface. A comprehensive Middle East peace agreement would be genuinely beneficial in human terms. It would save countless lives, reduce suffering, create significant economic opportunities, and bring much-needed stability to a volatile and dangerous region. These aren't evil goals in and of themselves. They're genuinely good goals. But according to biblical prophecy, the pursuit of peace through human covenant instead of divine intervention ultimately becomes the very foundation for the greatest tribulation in human history. Look at how Daniel describes this incredibly subtle deception. Daniel 8 verse 25, "And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. By peace shall destroy many, not by war, not by overt violence." By peace, the Antichrist will use peace agreements, diplomatic solutions, and international cooperation to strategically position himself for ultimate betrayal. And here's what makes this particular moment so incredibly dangerous. Most Christians aren't even actively watching. Most churches aren't even teaching about end times deception. Most believers have absolutely no idea that the very peace plans they're celebrating might be the setup for the greatest deception in human history. Revelation 13 verses 3-4 vividly describes the world's overwhelming reaction to the Antichrist, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him?" The world doesn't follow the Antichrist because he's obviously evil and malevolent. They follow him because he's unbelievably successful, because he solves unsolvable problems, because he brings peace where there was once only war, prosperity where there was poverty, and stability where there was utter chaos. The world celebrates with unbridled enthusiasm. The media declares a resounding victory. International leaders applaud with genuine relief. Peace prizes are awarded with great fanfare. Stock markets soar to unprecedented heights. Humanity collectively breathes a massive sigh of relief. But heaven sees the carefully laid trap being set. God sees the subtle deception slowly taking root. Scripture sees the covenant with death being signed in the name of life. Peace plans in biblical prophecy are often temporary smokescreens designed to conceal eternal destruction. They create a false sense of confidence, lower spiritual defenses, and ultimately set the stage for catastrophic betrayal. The crucial question every believer needs to ask themselves is this: are we watching these developments with genuine biblical discernment? Or are we simply being swept along by the same powerful deception that will ultimately fool the rest of the world? Because according to prophecy, when the world triumphantly proclaims peace and safety, sudden destruction is already knocking at the door. Discovery number 4, the timing. Why this could be the tipping point. The precise timing of this announcement should send bone-chilling shivers down every believer's spine. This peace plan was unveiled during the 81st Union General Assembly session. The very same session where 142 nations voted to officially support Palestinian statehood. The same week where world leaders gathered to discuss the future of the Middle East region. The same critical moment when global opinion is seemingly crystallizing around a two-state solution. Many serious students of biblical prophecy believe that Daniel's 70th week, the final 7 years before Christ's return, begins with exactly this kind of covenant, a comprehensive peace agreement involving Israel and numerous nations. What if this peace plan isn't the actual end of the Middle East conflict, but the ominous countdown to the beginning of the final tribulation? History is tragically littered with peace declarations that preceded catastrophic wars. Neville Chamberlain returned from Munich in 1938, famously declaring peace for our time, just 11 months before World War II officially began. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact solemnly promised peace between Germany and Russia, a mere 2 years before Hitler's surprise invasion of the Soviet Union. Peace declarations, especially comprehensive ones involving multiple nations, often mark the eerie final calm before unprecedented storms of unimaginable destruction. And here's what should terrify anyone who truly understands biblical prophecy. If this is, in fact, the covenant that Daniel so accurately predicted, then the 7-year countdown to Armageddon may have just been officially announced. Discovery number 5. The stakes. What happens if this fails? Trump gave all parties just 3 to 4 days to respond to this ambitious plan. That ultimatum creates 2 very distinct possible paths forward, and both of them inevitably lead to prophetic fulfillment. Path 1. But finishing the job could easily mean total war, which could quickly draw in Iran, trigger a broader Middle East conflict, and potentially fulfill the chilling Gog and Magog prophecy of Ezekiel 38. Ezekiel 38 and 39 together give us one of the most amazing, yet incredibly hard to understand, prophecies in the entire Bible. These chapters vividly tell us about a devastating invasion that will come against Israel from the north. The Bible explicitly says that it will come like a raging storm and cover the land like a dark cloud. At first glance, it will appear as though Israel has absolutely no hope of survival, but then God himself will dramatically step in and save them. After many days you will be summoned. In the latter years you will invade a land recovered from the ravages of war, a land whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They have been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live securely. You will advance, coming like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you, all your troops, and the many peoples with you. This is what the Sovereign Lord says. At that time thoughts will arise in your mind, and you will devise an evil plan. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful people who live securely, all of them living without walls or gates and bars. I will plunder and loot and turn my hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and goods, living at the center of the land. Sheba and Dedan and the merchants of Tarshish and all her villages will say to you, have you come to plunder? Have you gathered your hoards to loot, to carry off silver and gold, to take away livestock and goods, and to seize much plunder? Therefore, Son of Man, prophesy and tell Gog, this is what the Sovereign Lord says. At that time, when my people Israel are living securely, will you not take notice of it? You will come from your place in the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great horde, a mighty army. You will advance against my people Israel like a cloud that covers the land. In the last days I will bring you against my land, so that the nations may know me when I reveal my holiness in you before their eyes. Gog. Ezekiel 38 verse 16. The Bible clearly shows us that this specific attack by Gog will indeed happen in the last days. God had already promised that Israel would be gloriously restored, just like Ezekiel vividly saw in the vision of the Valley of Dry Bones. When Israel was held captive in Babylon, they thought that all hope was completely gone, but God promised to bring them triumphantly back. He gave them hope for their future and powerfully showed that they would once again be a nation. In chapter 38, we are introduced to Gog and Magog. Gog is the powerful ruler. Magog is his vast land. God tells us that this will all happen in the latter days. The brutal attack will come from the north, just as God has definitively said. Gog will certainly not be alone in this. He will come with a large group of allied nations. Many respected Bible teachers strongly believe that Gomer means Germany and Togarmah means Turkey. These nations will arrogantly think they are the ones leading the charge, but in reality, they are simply playing a part in God's ultimate plan. Their reason for viciously attacking is quite simple. They want to rob Israel and utterly destroy it. This deep-seated hatred is nothing new. Even today, many nations in the Middle East absolutely hate Israel. They hate anyone who is a friend of Israel as well. For in my jealousy and in my blazing wrath, I declare that at that time there will be a great earthquake in the land of Israel. The fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the wild animals, all the creatures that move along the ground, and all the people on the face of the earth will tremble at my presence. The mountains will be overturned, the cliffs will crumble, and every wall will fall to the ground. I will call for a sword against Gog on all my mountains, declares the Sovereign Lord. Every man's sword will be against his brother. I will execute judgment on him with plague and bloodshed. I will pour down torrents of rain, hailstones, and burning sulfur on him and on his troops and on the many peoples with him. And so I will show my greatness and my holiness, and I will make myself known in the sight of many nations. Then they will know that I am the Lord. Ezekiel 38 verse 19 to 23. God tells us that he will deliberately allow this terrible invasion so that the nations will finally see who he truly is. They will witness his awesome power and his perfect holiness. The Lord will pour out his blazing anger against this brutal attack. Verse 19 vividly describes something akin to a massive earthquake. Verse 20 powerfully shows the utter destruction that inevitably follows. God will use natural disasters, confusion, and stark fear to thoroughly crush this evil army. When it is all over, everyone will know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God is completely in control. Son of man, prophesy against Gog and say, "This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against you, Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. I will turn you around, put hooks in your jaws, and bring you out with your whole army, your horses, your horsemen fully armed, and a great horde with large and small shields, all of them brandishing their swords. Persia, Cush, and Put will be with them, all with shields and helmets. Also Gomer with all its troops, and Beth Togarmah from the far north with all its troops, the many nations with you. Get ready, be prepared, you and all the hordes gathered about you, and take command of them. After many days you will be called to arms. In future years you will invade a land that has recovered from war, whose people were gathered from many nations to the mountains of Israel, which had long been desolate. They had been brought out from the nations, and now all of them live in safety. You and all your troops and the many nations with you will go up, advancing like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land. This is what the sovereign Lord says. At that time thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil scheme. You will say, I will invade a land of unwalled villages. I will attack a peaceful and unsuspecting people, all of them living without walls and with neither gates nor bars, in order to seize plunder and carry off loot, to turn your hand against the resettled ruins and the people gathered from the nations, rich in livestock and resources, living at the very heart of the land. Ezekiel 39 verses 1 to 6. In chapter 39, God makes his unwavering judgment against Gog crystal clear. Gog and his vast land of Magog will be utterly destroyed. 5 out of every 6 soldiers in Gog's mighty army will be killed. Their advanced weapons will be rendered completely useless against the Almighty Lord. They will all fall on the mountains of Israel, and God will even send a consuming fire against Magog itself. So I will make my holy name known among my people Israel. I will no longer let my holy name be profaned, and the nations will know that I am the Lord, the Holy One in Israel. It is coming. It will surely take place, declares the sovereign Lord. This is the day I have spoken of. Then those who live in the towns of Israel will go out and use the weapons for fuel and burn them up, the shields and bucklers, the bows and arrows, the war clubs and spears. For 7 years they will use them for fuel. They will not need to take wood from the fields or cut it from the forests, because they will use the weapons for fuel. And they will plunder those who plundered them and loot those who looted them, declares the sovereign Lord. On that day I will give Gog a burial place in Israel, in the valley of those who travel east of the sea. It will block the path of travelers, because Gog and all his hordes will be buried there. So it will be called the Valley of Hamagog. For 7 months the people of Israel will be burying them in order to cleanse the land. All the people of the land will bury them, and it will bring them honor on the day I display my glory, declares the sovereign Lord. Then they will appoint men who will constantly traverse the land, burying those left on the ground. At the end of the 7 months they will begin their search. As they go through the land and one of them sees a human bone, he will set up a marker beside it until the gravediggers have buried it in the valley of Hamagog. Also a town called Hamanah will be there, so they will cleanse the land. Ezekiel 39 verses 7 to 15. The people of Israel will actually use the abandoned weapons as fuel for a full 7 years. It will take them 7 long months to bury all of the dead bodies. Special workers will be specifically chosen just to thoroughly search the entire land and bury whatever tragically remains. The name of the nearby city will also be Hamanah. In this way, they will finally cleanse the land. As for you, son of man, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Call out to every kind of bird and to all the wild animals. Assemble and come together from all around to the sacrifice I am preparing for you, a great sacrifice on the mountains of Israel. There you will eat flesh and drink blood. You will eat the flesh of mighty men and drink the blood of the princes of the earth, as if they were rams and lambs, goats and bulls, all of them fattened animals from Bashan. Ezekiel 39 verses 16 to 18. This striking prophecy sounds very similar to Revelation 19 verses 17 to 18, but these are distinctly different events that are taking place. Revelation's prophecy is about the devastating battle of Armageddon, but Ezekiel's prophecy is specifically about the ferocious attack of Gog and Magog before the millennium. Revelation 20 speaks of Gog and Magog again, but that particular event takes place only after the millennium. They are remarkably similar in their intense language, but they are certainly not the same. At the sacrifice I am preparing for you, you will eat till you are full and drink blood till you are drunk. At my table you will eat your fill of horses and riders, mighty men and soldiers of every kind, declares the sovereign Lord. I will display my glory among the nations, and all the nations will see the punishment I inflict and the hand I lay on them. From that day forward the people of Israel will know that I am the Lord their God. And the nations will know that the people of Israel went into exile for their sin, because they were unfaithful to me. So I hid my face from them and handed them over to their enemies, and they all fell by the sword. I will lay my hand on them, and the house of Israel will know, from that day forward, that I am the Lord their God. The Gentiles will recognize that the house of Israel was taken into captivity because of their sin. They were unfaithful to me, and so I turned my face away from them. I handed them over to their enemies, and they were all cut down by the sword. I dealt with them according to their uncleanness and transgressions, and I hid my face from them. Therefore, this is what the Lord God says, I am now going to bring Jacob's captives back, and I will have mercy on the entire house of Israel. I will be zealous for my holy name, after they have endured their shame and all their unfaithfulness, which they demonstrated against me, when they lived safely in their own land, and no one frightened them. When I have brought them back from the nations and gathered them from the lands of their enemies, and I am shown to be holy among them in the sight of many nations, then they will know that I am the Lord their God. I sent them into captivity among the nations, but I have also brought them back to their own land, leaving none of them captive any longer. And I will no longer hide my face from them, for I will have poured out my spirit on the house of Israel, says the Lord God. Ezekiel 39 verses 19 to 29. God makes his plan crystal clear. He declares, I will set my glory among the nations. He is showing us that Israel's past, present, and future are all firmly within his grasp. After Israel rejected Christ, it appeared as though God's timeline for Israel had paused. However, the day will come when that timeline resumes. Ultimately, Israel will be saved. God will pour out his spirit on them. Zechariah describes it as the spirit of grace and prayer. When Israel looks upon Jesus, their hearts will be transformed forever. Some people today fail to see Israel's future, but God sees it clearly. This is precisely why we must pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Furthermore, we must share Jesus with our Jewish friends because Romans 10 verses 12 to 13 remains relevant to them even now. For there is no difference between Jew and Greek. The same Lord is Lord of all and richly blesses all who call on him. For everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Path 2 unfolds, creating a false peace that sets the stage for the 7-year tribulation period. Gaza undergoes reconstruction. The Temple Mount issue finds a resolution. International forces step in to provide security guarantees. The world collectively breathes a sigh of relief. However, according to Daniel 9 verse 27, this peace will only last until the midpoint of the week, 3.5 years, when the one who confirmed the covenant breaks it and commits the abomination that causes desolation. Regardless of which path is taken, it leads to the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. Both paths move us closer to the end times. Both paths should compel believers to watch and pray with greater intensity than ever before. If the covenant is accepted, it could initiate a chain reaction, triggering every domino of end times prophecy: the rebuilt temple, the rise of a global government, the mark of the beast system, and ultimately, the return of Christ. So, how should Christians respond when we witness potential prophetic fulfillment unfolding before our very eyes? First, we must watch and pray. Matthew 24 verses 42 to 44 instructs us, therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day your Lord will come. But understand this, if the homeowner had known in which hour the thief was coming, he would have kept watch and would not have allowed his house to be broken into. So you also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him. Jesus commanded us to be vigilant, watching for the signs of his return. This peace plan, whether it ultimately succeeds or fails, is a sign that warrants our close attention. Second, we must maintain discernment. We should not get carried away by political enthusiasm or diplomatic optimism. Instead, we must test everything against the scriptures. Ask challenging questions. Remember that Satan's most deceptive schemes often come disguised as humanitarian breakthroughs. Third, we must prepare spiritually, not just politically. The appropriate response to prophetic fulfillment isn't simply political activism, it's spiritual readiness. We must ensure that our relationship with Christ is secure. We must make sure our family is well-versed in the gospel. We must be walking in obedience to God's word. Fourth, we must share the truth. Most Christians are unaware that current events might be fulfilling biblical prophecy. Many churches aren't teaching about the end times. Many believers are asleep while the most significant prophetic events in history unfold around them. The Trump-Netanyahu peace plan may represent the most significant prophetic development since Israel's reestablishment as a nation in 1948. The language they used, the coalition they are building, the timeline they have created, all of it resonates with biblical prophecy with striking precision. The 7-year countdown may have just been initiated, and few are even paying attention. But you are, and now you know what to look for. The crucial question is this: will you be ready when the final piece falls into place?